Hello friends, I am back again with a new video in the series DSNL Go for coding interviews. The problem that we'll be taking up today is one of the most commonly asked problem in coding interviews. The problem that we'll be solving today is merge k sorted list. So as an input we are given k sorted list and we have to merge them together and return a result list which will also be sorted. Let's try to understand this problem statement with the help of an example. Here as an input we are given 4 lists. Okay, the first list contain elements 2, 4 and 8. The second list contains 1 and 2. The third list contains 6, 7 and 8 and the last list contains 3. Okay, so we have to merge all these elements together and we have to return a result list which is also sorted. So as you can see in the result, the head element 1, it comes from the second list. The second element 2, it comes from the first list, and then again 2, it comes from the second list. Now let's talk about our solution. Our solution basically uses min-heap or priority queue. If you want to implement min-heap in Java, you can simply use a priority queue, and your comparator should arrange elements in such a way that the minimum element always remains at the head of the queue. Okay, so this 2, it came from our second list. Okay, and it is the next element of our previous minimum. So basically at every step we extract the minimum. Okay, and we add its next pointer or its next node to the min heap. And at each step, the minimum element extracted from the heap will be added to our result list. Okay, now let's jump on to the code. The main job here is to implement this merge klist method. It takes an array of list node as input, and then we have to merge these lists together into a sorted list. Okay, so our result should contain elements from all these input list and the result should also be sorted. So the structure of this list node is similar to the class mentioned here. Okay, so it will have a value field and it will have a pointer to the next node. Okay, so let's start implementing. First thing we always do inside a method is to check for boundary conditions or invalid cases. So if it is equal to null or its length is 0, then we simply return null. Okay, now the other thing that we need to do is we need to basically create a priority queue. Okay, so we need to create a priority queue and it will contain the list nodes. Okay, so now inside the priority queue we'll have to also pass a comparator which will be used for comparing the nodes or the data within the priority queue. So you can basically say o1 dot val minus o2 dot val. Okay, so our comparator implementation is done. So this comparator will just work on the value field of these lists. Now we'll add head of all the list into our queue. Okay, so we'll iterate through the array and we'll add the head of all the list into our queue. Okay, so we'll check if list will add it to our queue. Okay, so this null will basically take care of some invalid cases where the header of list is null. Okay, so In this step, we have added the heads of all the list into our array, into our queue, sorry, and now we'll iterate over our queue till it becomes empty. We'll have to introduce some pointers as well. So one would be list node previous, which always points to the previous node, and the other one would be the head of the result. Okay, so now what we have to do is, if queue is not empty, we'll basically get the element. So we'll now we'll check if our previous is null. That means this is the first element, or this is the head of the result list. Okay, in that case we'll basically say previous is equal to node. Why is it giving an error here? Might not have been initialized. So okay, so previous is equal to node, and we'll also say head is equal to node. Okay, so in this case, if there are no elements in the result array, in the result list, we'll basically initialize our list and we'll initialize its header to the first node. Okay, and we'll have to add if node dot next is not equal to null, we'll have to add it to the queue. Okay, so basically this is the case when you have taken up the head of the minimum element, okay, or the list node with the minimum value, and you add its next node into the queue now. Okay, so you basically add queue dot add node dot next. Okay, now let's jump to the else clause. Okay, in this else clause, our previous is not null, and we'll basically take this node and we'll add it to the next of previous. So now what we'll do is previous dot next is equal to node. Okay, and we'll move previous to the next node. Okay, and we'll check if if node dot next is not equal to null, then we'll basically add it to a queue. And then in the end of this method, we'll simply return the head. Is complete now, and let's test it with these inputs. Okay, so these are the list. Here they are arrays, but I have created a util which converts them to list node. Okay, and if I run this, let me first list node result is equal to this, and let me print the result. So if I run it now, you will see that first list is 5, 8, 10, 12, and I have printed other list as well. Okay, now if you see the result list, we have first two elements as 1, so this comes from the third list, this comes from the fourth list. Okay, then we have two entries of 2 and So this comes from this list and the other one comes from fourth list. Okay, and then we have threes, we have fours, we have three fives, and the last element is 12. Okay, and before that it's 10. So if you see from the example, 12 comes from here and 10 comes from here. So our code is actually working. So this is the complete solution of this problem. It is one of the most important problem when it comes to coding interviews. I will check in this code into my GitHub repository and will provide link to my GitHub repository in the description section of this video. I'll also provide link to the coding portal where you can go and solve this problem. If you like the content of this video, please give me a big thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. It gives me a lot of confidence when I see new subscribers on my channel. I will soon come up with a new video on problems frequently asked in coding interviews.